Why am I boxing and expecting not to get hit in the face, bro?
You know, there's a grown man on the other side of you trying to knock your head off.
During the lockdown period, it must have been like the laziest time of my life. I had belly rolls, bro. I had
Really?
I'd be
I can't imagine you with belly rolls.
Exactly. If you look at my tattoo, it says WWC.
Yeah.
That's literally sounds a winner warrior champion. Being a coward is something, it's like one of the worst things I could imagine myself being.
Welcome to the Amateur Boxing Show. This is where we step into the world of amateur boxing and explore not just the sport, but also the incredible journeys behind it. My name's Nico, and the plan is to do this twice a month, where we sit down with an amateur boxer and explore their incredible journeys, their highs, their lows, and also the lessons they've learned from inside the ring and outside, and how they've taken what they've learned from in the ring and applied it to life, and vice versa. Today, I am joined by someone who is not shy for throwing themselves into the deep end and learning thick and fast. His name is Gautam Sharma. He's 23 years old, and he started off boxing when he was 21. He made a transition from calisthenics to boxing, and what he's wanted to do and achieve is use his strength, his balanced side of technique that calisthenics provides you with, and channel it in a different way using boxing. He's a very chilled out guy. He comes across as serious, he feels, but he's very chilled out, and he loves his chicken wings. So if yours go missing, you know who's taking them. Gautam, thank you very much. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure. What I want you to start off with is, what I find is that your motivation and commitment to the sport. I think that's what really the question that came to my mind when I read your introduction and you sent it over to me. So just start off by just telling us, like, why boxing? You could have done, you were doing calisthenics.
Yeah.
Why boxing?
It's a really interesting question you ask. So one of my closest friends, Jassie's name is, he was already doing amateur boxing. So there were a couple of occasions I saw him fight, and I remember seeing him in that ring thinking, when he got his hand raised and he had a trophy in his hand, like, yo, that must be an amazing feeling. I wonder what that feels like, And I never thought I'd get into the sport so quick from just seeing him fight. I thought it'd be something I'd take off my bucket list later down the line, maybe on 26, 27. But same way we're having this conversation now, I had a similar conversation with him. And just one day, he just called me. I must have been sitting down, sipping my tea, man, just chilling. He's like, yeah, go on. Yeah, I signed you up for a fight. You know what I mean? And me, I'm not one to like... Did
he know? Did like Jesse know that you were thinking of boxing, like it was on the back of your mind? Or
yeah, we've had conversations in the past where, like, I'd commend him. It was like there are people watching him from the crowd as like an audience, but for me, it wasn't just me going out there to support my friend. I was actually wondering, no, genuinely, I wonder what that feeling feels like, because I didn't really see a winner or a loser in these situations either. I just saw two people in the ring. I was thinking, yo, I haven't even put myself in a situation like that. That alone is commendable, I wonder what it feels like not to only get in there, but also get my hand raised. And I thought it'd only just be a one-time thing, something I tick off my bucket list. And obviously, Jassy, hearing all this, he ended up calling me saying, yo, signed you up for a fight. And when that was said, a lot of the time, don't get twisted, my heart was pounding. I was like, yo, imagine being told, yo, in 8 weeks' time, we're going to fight. And these times, you've trained in the past, but not to the extent of combat sports. Like, you don't even know if you can throw a jab properly yet. Someone's telling you in 8 weeks you're going to fight. You can only imagine the amount of edge I was feeling. And not only was it me, he signed up for my fight. He's like, also signed up your brother Arvin for a fight too.
No way.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy.
And the funny thing was, okay, I just look at
the sorry to cut you there. So to me, it sounds like for you, it was like a conscious decision as such. It was like you kind of had that urge. Yeah. You had that kind of like hunger. I can sense that you were going out there watching Jesse.
Yeah.
And then you were like, do you know what? I could do that.
This is the opportunity now.
Do you know what I mean? I could do that. I wonder what that's like.
I wonder what it's like. 100%.
And then you kind of like fell into it.
100%. It's like was like a perfect opportunity. Everything aligned in them situations, you know, my motivation prior and just having someone who's experienced in the sport put me in a situation like that. It was almost like it was meant to happen, that conversation, you know. So I thought, why shy away from the opportunity? And obviously, him also wanting my brother to partake in it.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and my brother, we did everything. We do everything with each other anyway, you know.
Yeah.
He was on my calisthenics journey with me. It only made sense, right? Because by this point, I would, you know, see Jassy train here and there. Because at this time in my life, I wanted to learn self-defense. But at no point did I think, you know what, I'm going to be in the ring with amateurs. Because even then, I knew there was levels to boxing. Even though when someone told me, oh, I'm an amateur boxer, I knew, okay, this guy runs every day. He trains every day. But never to, at any point up until this point, was I thinking, yeah, I'm going to be the guy competing. I'm going to be the guy. I just want to learn how to.
It just sounds like you kind of like, and that's what I've always found, you know, that I've loved about you is like you've hit the ground running and you've just sort of like I want to do this and I want to learn, and you've given it your 110%.
100%. Like, I'm someone who, when you talk about my motivations, like, I believe I can achieve anything and everything I put my mind
Absolutely,
to.
yeah, and 100%.
You know,
how's boxing impacted your life?
You know, boxing is one of those sports, like, right now, the same way calisthenics was at one point a part of my journey, and it still is something I have a lot of love for and a lot of skills to develop from. And it's not something I'm going to completely neglect. Boxing is just that next part of my journey. Like, I always tell myself, right now, it's something I put my everything into, but I could be a jiu-jitsu, you know, specialist in the next 3 years. After that, I could be a wrestler. I don't know. But right now, boxing is that thing, you know what I mean? And like I said,
like you've totally embraced it.
I'm embracing it. Like, it's a part of my journey.
Totally embraced it.
And combat sports is one of those things. Like, I've done calisthenics, like I said, in the past, but it wasn't a level of competitiveness to it because it's such a niche sport. But boxing isn't just a competitive sport either. It's a sport where you're risking getting knocked out. You can risk getting humiliated. You're not just risking a loss where, like,
actually, it's a different level of it gives you a different level of adrenaline.
Yeah, it's a different level of competitiveness.
Like, it's like you got a grown man, like, sitting on the, you know, well, not sitting, but, you know, there's a grown man on the other side of you trying to knock your head off.
Yeah,
and like that kind of, like, in terms of mentally, it's just a different ball game.
But then I even realized with just boxing alone, there's levels to the sport, you know, as well. Like, amateurs, pros, but there's white collar boxing. The level I decided to go for, which is amateur, was like, I'm genuinely learning skills to the best of my capability and like the most fast pace, up against someone who's not just a random person they just grabbed off the street. It's someone who's running every day like me, someone who's training as often as me, someone who has the same goal.
I mean, it's a good point, actually. It's a good point. It's a good point for me to ask you. So how's boxing actually impacted your life?
Yeah, that's a good question.
So say, for example, you were doing calisthenics. That's a different sport. It's a different, you know, it's different. You're going to have a different regiment.
Yeah, 100%.
Doing that. Yeah. Just tell me how, and the viewers and somebody, you know, thinking about going into amateur boxing, just tell us how it's impacted your life.
So,
you know, from your eating, from your mindset, like
100%. So from what I've understood with this sport, unlike other sports, like, you know, team sports like football and that, you're heavily reliant on yourself, and boxing is a very unforgiving sport. So you have to make sure you're showing up every time. You have to make sure you got the right mindset. You know, there's never a day where, like, I'm not on edge. Do you know what I mean? There'll be times where, especially if I don't feel like I'm doing enough, I could be doing on paper what, you know, an average person who might not be a part of the sport might be thinking, yo, you're training every day. But sometimes, you know, the quantity isn't the same as the quality of your training. You know, you need to know that, I might have been training today, but have I been eating right? Am I on weight? Am I this and that? Have I been putting in the work as much as my potential opponent? Because, like I said, if you aim high in the sport, you get more reward out of it. Like, I started off boxing just to learn self-defense, but that's what I limited myself to. Like, I don't see myself competing. Hence, I didn't do the nutrition. I didn't do the extra sessions, the extra runs, because in my head, I was like, no, I just want to be able to defend myself on the street if something happens. But then when you aim higher, like, first, it's for my first bout, then yours like a pyramid. Like, you aim, naturally, if you're preparing for your first bout, you're going to learn self-defense in the process. But now when you're thinking ahead, like, yo, I want to become a national champion, not only are you just thinking about winning your first bout, now winning your couple bouts, that's just a part of the journey to become that national champion. So from what I understood was, I was just open to opportunities. open into putting myself in the deep end, putting myself in adverse situations, but overcoming that adversity just strengthened my
So
mind.
would you say, in terms of impact, it's impacted your
Mindset, 100%.
your mindset? Yeah, you've just taken the word, straight out my mouth. And also, like, the nutritional side, you're now more conscious of what you're eating.
Yeah, like things
before.
I never.
Am I right? Am I getting that?
Yeah,
right,
that's just like one aspect. It's like things I never used to see as important before I started competing. I see way more important, but that don't just benefit me in the sport. Like I've always said, like this is just one chapter of my life, boxing. I just take things step by step. If I become a professional in the future, that's what my life has said. But if this is just something I want to do, it's like I like to describe it right now, currently, as a hobby I take extremely seriously. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy it, but then it's not something you can play with either. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Okay.
So the skills I'm learning from it as well is transitional for the outside world. So I've always said I want to be the best version of myself inside and outside the ring. So the mindset it's giving me, if I can put myself in a situation where someone who trains as hard as me, he's trying to hit my head off in front of a crowd, my loved ones, my family. If I can put myself in a situation like that, whether I win or lose, and I'm willing to fail, I'm willing to risk getting knocked out and all these things. What's a job interview, bro? What's talking to a female? None of these things are as nerve-wracking as putting yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
So
I often say that, like, if you can box, and you can compete,
what's the job interview?
There's nothing that'll phase you.
Is that confidence it gives you outside the ring as well? It strengthens your mindset, the way you carry yourself. I've realized as well, as you've learned how to fight. For instance, me, like, I don't even see myself as someone, when people are like, yeah, I know how to fight. Me as a boxer, I'm not thinking about your average Joe on the road who doesn't compete. I'm thinking about, no, I don't care about people I know I can beat. I'm thinking about how can I be the next regional champion? How can I be the next national champion? I'm trying to think ahead. I don't even think I'm the best version of myself yet. Like, I still need to explore my potential that hasn't been reached yet. So there's always that hunger. And, when you see that progression, you see what you look like on day one and what you look like now. Sometimes I feel like people don't take the time to be grateful and take a step back and look at how far they progressed. Especially me, it's been around 2 years time now. It's been 2 years of training. The amount of progress I've made within that time. Sometimes I got, through win or loss, sit back and be like, you know what, bro? Like, if you never took these opportunities where you risk losing or where you have lost or where you have even won, you will not be at the stage you are now. And that's been 2 years. Some people have been doing this since it was 7. Imagine if you do this for the next 2 years, what level you'd be then.
I think that's where you get some of your hunger from.
Yeah, the fact that people have been doing it from young. I started a bit later. Do you know what I mean?
I remember reading your intro and I was like, wow, this guy's hungry.
100%.
Hungry. Just tell me what you've touched on a lot of this, but just in a sentence or two, just tell us, what has your boxing journey taught you about yourself up to this point?
100%.
You've touched about, your mindset. And, being able to, like, just, nothing phasing you, like an interview you mentioned or and what have you. So just elaborate, just a sentence or two, like, what else have you learned about yourself doing boxing?
What else have I learned about myself? If I was to just narrow it down, it's going to sound like what I just mentioned before, but anything I put my mind to, I can achieve and I will achieve. And
so it's given you that sense of, like,
self-confidence,
unbelievable level of confidence.
100%.
And that's coming from somebody that knowing you for as long as I have, I wouldn't say you're someone that would lack that confidence, because if you did, you probably wouldn't have hit the ground running.
It's something you can't, though. You can't lack confidence in this sport, I feel, because even if you have to,
but that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm saying is that you're not someone that lacks that level of confidence. You came into sport having done your calisthenics, but then what I find fascinating, and I think it's actually really motivational, is that you're doing boxing and it's like taking your self-confidence to another level, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
100%. But even with that self-confidence, bro, like, you saw me spar yesterday, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, I get nervous still, bro. Even
and that's normal. That's normal.
Bro, I'll be petrified to the point where even, like, I've learned that words have power and meaning as well. However you view yourself, that is how you're going to perform. That's how you're going to present yourself.
Absolutely.
And
it's so true.
Even times where I've been in situations where, I do realize, this might be competitive. This is a serious guy. You have to tell yourself, no, I am the best. I'm better than this person. I'm the best version. I'm a winner. I like to live by these like words: winner, warrior, champion. I tell myself that's what I am. And through this journey, believe it or not, bro, only a few years ago, man, I lacked so much self-esteem, bro. Like
really,
100%. It's like,
see, I was from
you wouldn't have known that
for as long as I've known you, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have
100%.
And
since you have known
come across as confident, self-assured.
Exactly.
You've just sort of embraced, and you need a lot of confidence if you're going to be doing boxing.
Exactly.
You can't have any sort of level of doubts or lack of confidence, because if you do,
even if you have to lie
you're
to
going to
yourself,
get into the ring. So you got to have that sense of confidence. So I think,
and you got to know your why you're getting into the ring. For a lot of people, for me personally, when I get into the ring, it's literally to become the best version of myself. Like for me, I like to imagine myself in the future. When I think about the most optimal version of myself, when I don't believe in peaking as a person. I always believe you're always going to progress. But when I think about that version I aspire to be, it's a protector, a provider. But what is a protector and a provider? Someone can look out for their loved ones, someone who's there financially, but then also physically in the aspect where I can defend my loved ones. Is
that what drives you then?
For me, I see myself as a video game character, bro. Like I'm trying to max, when you max out your stats, your intelligence, your physicality, your charisma, all of these things.
So you're kind of like using
this is my journey,
boxing, man, to get you to max you out.
100%, bro, because it's important. Because when I imagine,
I've never thought of it like that.
Yeah, I've seen people who are amazing boxers, bro. They're skilled, they've experienced XYZ, they've gone through all levels of adversity, but then they're still shy, they're still this, and I'm looking at them, I'm like, bro, you're literally this champion, that champion. How are you so shy, bro? Like this would give me an amazing level of confidence to the point where I feel like, because I've realized with a lot of people, they see boxing as just boxing, but they forget to realize that it's outside the ring as well. It can benefit you, bro. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So for me, that's the reasoning, bro. I want to be the best version of myself. And
so talking about best version of yourself, and you mentioned game character. What is your favorite game character? Have you got one?
That's a good question. That's a good question.
What is your favorite?
Have you played God of War, bro?
I've heard of it, but I'm not someone that likes these adventure games. I've got like my attention span is like I just can't invest the time, so I've never been a fan.
In recent times, that's been me as well. I don't really play games like that, but when I have played games that come to the top of my head are like them real sick story games like God of War, Uncharted, and Last of Us. I don't know if you've ever played that, but their main characters, bro. Like when you think of when I imagine a person I aspire to become, what I'm saying, from their leadership, from their ability to fight, when the aura they have, you know what I'm saying, what I mean, Nathan Drake, who else, man, Kratos, Last of Us, Joel, I believe that's the name. Those not only are the games really good, but it's because of the characters like them. They just made the game even better. Those are my favorite sort of characters there.
So you're like an adventure
100%. Like
character,
I said,
first person kind of game.
Yeah, man, you're the people, when I said, for me, the definition of a man I want to become, other than the physicality, being able to fight. These are things that most men want to do anyways. Most men are I want to be a fighter, I want to be this. But then when I think about being a man, I'm thinking about, if there's a fire in the house, my kids and my wife, they're gonna call me before the firefighters. Dad, there's a fire.
Exactly.
When there's burglars outside the house, instead of saying, I'm gonna call the police first, 999, they're gonna call me first. You know what I'm trying to say? So that's what I try to be, a DIY person. In the next 2 years, you might see me constructing my own house, bro. You know
what? I can believe that. I can believe that. So in terms of boxing, what is your aim in terms of boxing? You've touched on your life. Life, ambitions and where you want to go, and it's actually, I think it's commendable, how you think, and I think it's important, because if you live life in autopilot mode, then you're just a sheep. You're just going to do what the masses are doing, and you're just going to go through life, living somebody else's version, somebody else's idea of what life is meant to be. So I think you're very much what I'm gathering, having this discussion, is that you're on it. You want to make your own.
100%.
You want life you want to live life on your own terms,
Definitely, bro. Definitely.
which is fantastic, and that's that's what we encourage. That's one of the reasons I've started this show, to showcase that, to motivate people, to inspire people to do that. So it's amazing stuff.
Appreciate that, bro.
So in terms of boxing,
Mm-hmm.
just what do you want to achieve? Do you want to go on and win a regional championship,
Yeah.
national championship? Do you want to be part of the GB team? Do you want to turn professional?
So that's a great. So for me,
what do you want to achieve?
So I see it in two ways. There's a version of my head where I think this is what I want to achieve, but at the same time, I take things step by step as well. So for me, I just want to be the best boxer I can be while I'm in the sport. And if that means when my coach says, yo, I'm going to enter you into this box cup, I want you to fight this championship, best believe when I've entered these sort of things, I'm going to endeavor my hardest to win these competitions. So the best version of myself, which I allow myself to become essentially, it's not necessarily something as, black and white as, I want to just be a national champion. I want to be a GB squad. I want to be a pro. A lot of people say that, but then if they were to break it down, do they, is that actually what they want? When you actually tell them, you know what, to get to that level, you need to do X, Y, Z. And sometimes they might take a step back and be like, oh, was that what I was expecting? I know what's expected of the sport. And from the standards of what the sport presents, I just know I'm going to be the best version of myself. And whenever I'm in competition, whenever my coach says I got to fight for you, whenever my coach says I think you're ready for these championships, and I have a person you want to spar, I'm always going to be the person to say yes, as I have been since the day Jassy called me on the phone. I said I got to fight for you in 8 weeks, because though I did feel nervous, though I do feel petrified at
it's
times,
normal, isn't it?
Which is normal. I like to be very harsh and strict on myself, to the point where I know everyone feels nervous, everyone feels petrified. But it's the same way Mike Tyson's coach said, custom motto, he said, what's the difference between a coward and a hero? It's like, they both feel nervous, they both feel petrified, but the hero is the one that does it anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's interesting.
And for me, one of the worst things I could ever be. Don't get it twisted. I've had, doubts in my life. I've had, bad thoughts in my life. But being a coward is something, it's like one of the worst things I could imagine myself being. Hence, this is why I'm extra harsh on myself. Which I extra want to take that extra step into proving not only to those that matter around me, but to myself that
it's always got to be about
I'm
you.
the best. That's what it's got to be. Because it's a selfish sport at the end of the day. Because it's going to be you in that ring alone. You could have your coach, you could have your family watching you, but at the end of the day,
it's just you and
yourself. Like I mentioned before, like team sports, you can get subbed out when you're tired. You know what I'm saying? If you're injured, there's still other people on the pitch playing. But when you're in that ring and you're relying on your grit, your willpower, your determination.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's just you talking about family. How has your family taken? What are they like in terms of, and especially your mom? Because I know in my experience, I've had, where moms just don't want to see their son, their daughter,
of course,
having a fight, getting punched.
Yeah, definitely.
So how's it been? What's it been like for you?
So it's funny you asked that. My parents never know when I'm fighting. In fact, no one knows when I'm fighting. It's one of those.
Not even Arian.
No, Arian knows. It's only us two. Like me and Arian were very close. My brother. That's my brother, by the way.
Am I saying I say Arian, but it's not. It's Arian.
Arian, that's the one. Arian. Yeah. So we're always there for each other in each other's corners.
He's the good-looking one, by the way.
Yeah, he's the best.
I'm joking.
Yeah, I said. But you know what it is like a night before our bout.
So your parents don't know you're fighting tomorrow. So you've had 5 fights, and they've not known.
So what would happen is
that because they don't want you doing it, or is it just because
I liked a lot of the success I've had in my life? I've always come as a surprise to my parents, and that was the same thing with my boxing, my fights. So it'd be a thing where they'll be calling me, "Where are you? Where are you, bro? Where are you, son?" And I'll just come back with a trophy. I might have my kit on and be like, "Oh yeah, by the way, here's a trophy, Dad." And just go upstairs, and then he'll be like, "You fought today." You know what I mean? And then I might send him the video and they'll be like, "Well done." But it's never a thing where I just tell them up front. It's something I want to surprise them with. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
And same with my bro.
But why do you do that? What is it? What is it? I mean, is it? Do you think it's expectation, or do you think they're gonna worry? Like.
So for me, I know my parents. I think a lot of people can relate to this, but especially my dad. Like they're very fixed on results, right?
Do you think your mom will ever? Do you think you'll ever take her to one of your shows?
It's funny you asked that. Like I always say to my mom, I say, like even when I show her a video, it could be a little clip of me even just outperforming the person, right? And she might just land one single jab. She's not focusing on the combination I landed on him. She's thinking,
she's just thinking, my son getting
hit you. I like look at her, I'm like, see, yeah, mom, this is why you're not coming to any of my fights anytime soon, you know? Maybe one day though, mom. But when that time comes, that time will come.
Yeah.
But it's not something.
No, I think you should. I think it's like for them to see it in person. I think it's like a good experience. It's like a nice experience, and then you knowing that they're there. I don't know. It might motivate you. You might take you to another level because you know there's actual people from my family. You know, like my mom's there, like kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just putting it out there.
No, you're right. That could be the case.
So what's it like with life as an amateur boxer? So in terms of like, and this is. And when I say incredible journeys, they really are incredible because what people don't realize is that boxing at any level is tough, and that includes at amateur level. And I would actually even argue that it's perhaps even harder because at amateur level, you're working. Like, you know, I would do a shift where I'm standing 8 hours a day on my feet. You wrap up. You know, you make sure you've eaten properly that day. You know, you wrap up work. You get yourself to the gym, and then you're sparring, and then you're doing 100%, you know, your gym session 100%. And what have you, and balancing that is you know, it takes like it gives you a level of respect that you wouldn't have had I not done the sport myself. Definitely. So what's it like for you?
Yeah, definitely. It takes a lot of sacrifice because
and I was at university. Like dedication, isn't it? It's like you got to have that consistent, solid routine is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. Like, I actually started in my second year of university, and obviously with coursework and deadlines, alongside not only just boxing, but I started boxing, so I felt like I had to work 10 times harder because there are people who've been boxing for 5 years prior to me, people who started when they were younger. In my head, when I started the boxing thing, because I started a bit later as well, I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to take it serious. So because I felt like I had to work 10 times harder than most people around me, which it ended up working out because I've made so much progress since then, it was also hard to do a lot of other things, you know, balance the social life with my exams.
And then you had your boxing.
And my boxing. It was like...
How did you do it? Like how...
You know, it took a lot of like, you know, all-nighters, a lot of, you know, saying no to go into certain events, you know what I mean, making a lot of sacrifices,
social events, going out,
chilling. It was very taxing, but obviously, like I mentioned before, I had Arin with me, so it's almost like we were both in it together. So it almost made, you know, a lonely sport less lonely. I always like to say that. I always say to people around me, like, yo, you made this sport less lonely, and the loneliest sport in the world, you made feel less lonely. And me being alongside Ari and seeing him progress, because we started at the same time, progressing on a similar level, having him to sharpen me, like, you know, how iron sharpens iron. Whenever I was demotivated, him telling me, no, we got to show up. You know, having that person to hold me accountable.
So how did you like balance it all then? Like, was it just like you wanted it so bad that you would sacrifice that night out or that social event with friends or whatever it was, family, and you were like, right, okay, I have to go train, do my boxing. Is that
Yeah, it was like one or the other, it felt like for me. Like, it's almost like you can't do both. Do you know what I mean?
So how's it going for you now? Are you
much
still
better now.
struggling, or are you like in like a routine?
I found a happy medium now. Now that I've obviously progressed more into the sport, it's not like I'm starting from base zero again. How I view it now is, especially when you start with anything, you don't have to structure things. That's the thing, you know. I really believe I could learn everything if I know where to start. But that's the issue I feel like most people start with. They don't know where to start. So that's the thing that makes it so taxing. Like, but now that I've had enough experience now to understand what a routine looks like, or what a good structure looks like, or how I can balance X, Y, and Z. Because there are boxers who work 3 jobs and go training. I'm not going to be the person who says, oh, I've got university, so I'm going to use that as an excuse to slack in this aspect. Or I do boxing, I'm going to use that as an excuse to slack in another aspect.
So do you think having that drive, that desire, you know, for your amateur boxing kind of just made you more what's the word? It just made you more ruthless, focused.
Yeah, you know, because it's almost like
you know you've got this much time to do, I don't know, uni work.
Yeah.
And then if you don't do it in that amount of time, you're going to have to do it maybe at a time that's going to encroach on your gym session. So
exactly.
It would motivate you then to just bang out.
Like I had to be on top of my stuff, and I had to be organized. It taught me organization. But like I said, right now, because I understand what training should look like throughout the week, because I'm not,
you kind of like fit like, stuff around.
Yeah, it's not like I'm playing catch up as much anymore. It's almost like, okay, now I'm at a level where things are more structured and organized. It's not as taxing as it once was, especially when I first started. Through the boxing journey, it taught me to be more structured and organized. You'll catch me writing notes. You'll catch me writing how I want to structure my day. You'll catch me, I mentioned yesterday, my calendar. Before I started boxing, that wasn't really a thing, So because I felt like I had to be more organized, I felt like I had to actually structure my days and adapt. For instance, today we're doing an interview today. I structured my day around what this is going to look like and what my training's going to look like later on. So I ended up, maybe I had to wake up a bit earlier. Maybe I had to do some things a bit earlier. My work.
Oh, so you've kind of like, so it's like you're that hell-bent, focused on boxing that you kind of like juggle things around it.
Yeah.
So how's boxing different from calisthenics?
Calisthenics is much more, of course it requires...
Because it does take, I admire it. Like I've seen some of your clips. Do you want to share your thing too?
Of course. So you can follow my social media at Calli_statics. That's CALI_STATIX statics.
And some of the stuff I've seen you doing, like freestanding, handstand, and you're actually doing like shoulder press, handstand.
Essentially, yeah, it is.
And it's like because like to do that, you need an immense amount of body strength
and focus and all of these things.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So you've obviously got that. I've seen you do it. Like so. How did you get to that point?
How did I start calisthenics?
Like, how did you get to a point where you can do handstand? Like,
so it's the same mindset mode in boxing. Like, you just can't give up. Like, learning how to do a handstand, you can't not expect to fall over. So you can't fear falling over. You can't fear injuring yourself. These are things you got to understand that come with the sport. Same way in boxing, you got to know getting a broken nose or an injury or getting dropped or getting stuck. All these things are risks that come with the sport. You'd be a fool not to think that you're invincible to that. You'd be a fool to think that can never happen to me. So it's the same thing going into any sport like calisthenics. You got to know like, yo, I'm going to learn a handstand, but you do realize there's a risk you might hurt yourself. But for me, that risk, the risk to reward is more rewarding to learn it and just get a couple injuries. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's the mindset that I pushed forward into my calisthenics journey, and it ended up paying off because it's the same way.
Did you compete or anything like that? I don't know if there's even competitions.
There were. I remember when I started boxing, I had already there's a boxing community. You'll see the same coaches, you'll see the same faces at certain events and venues.
Yeah.
There's somewhat a calisthenics community, but it wasn't really big where I'm from, innit? So I'm from.
It's more of I think it's more of an American thing, isn't it?
It's an American thing, and like in places in London as well, right?
Oh. Okay.
But I know this person. One time I just came across him when I was in a pure gym, just doing my handstand, and he literally went up to me. He's like, "Yo, do you do calisthenics?" I said, "Yeah, bro. Yeah, I do it." He goes, "He does it too." But then this guy, he must have gone at the dip bars, right? And he just did a handstand press right in front of me, man. And it was like, even I couldn't do it to that extent back then. And I was like, yo, this guy knows what he's doing. So,
well, were you like doing something in pure gym?
Yeah, he must have come across it. He spotted me.
And then he was
and then he showed me what he was about. And I must have, we even had a video together where we literally did handstand push-ups side by side. It was pretty sick, innit? Because I was collabing back then when calisthenics was my thing. And he actually...
And how long did you do it for?
So...
How long did you do calisthenics?
So I took it very seriously during, the lockdown period.
Yeah.
No gyms were open. Obviously, prior to that, you would see...
So what, you were just watching YouTube videos, you were Googling, searching how to do, I don't know, handstand, and then you would just get there and just practice in your room.
So prior to lockdown, I had somewhat of an experience with strength. Like, you'd catch me doing weighted dips, maybe weighted pull-ups, but nothing in the skill aspects. I focused on the handstand push-ups, the holds, and all these things. So I remember during the lockdown period, it must have been like the laziest time of my life, bro. I actually had
I think it was lazy for
bro.
everyone.
I had belly rolls, bro. I had
Really?
like, bro. I would be, bro. I'd be.
I can't imagine you with belly rolls.
Exactly that, but I like to tell people that. I was like, yo, could you imagine me? Like, you know, during lockdown, bro, I used to have belly rolls, bro. Like, and I just didn't like how I felt, bro. I felt like really sad. I looked at what I once looked like before, you know, because I was in decent shape before. Seeing myself get to that stage, it wasn't a very nice, pleasant feeling. And I remember telling myself, I don't want to feel this again. Right. So I just got cracking. You know, I ordered some Olympic rings, you know, those rings you can like hang on to a tree.
Yeah.
No gyms are open these times. So I would always go to the same park every day. It's called Harry Mitchell's Park. It's a couple of roads away from me. I would tie it on top of the monkey bars, and I would do all my full body workouts there.
I just want to go back to sparring. How would you say describe sparring to someone that's thinking about doing it and has, you know, is someone that's not done boxing before?
Yes.
Just describe them what it's like to spar.
So for me, the way I perceive sparring is it's a part of the training. Do you understand? A lot of people perceive sparring like it's the fight. I need to win this. Sometimes they do it to the point where they neglect the skills they've been learning just to like leave there with ego and maybe say, oh, I beat this person.
Yeah.
And it's like, bro, that's not on your record. First of all,
what does he actually feel like? Is what I'm getting at.
Oh,
what does he actually feel like getting in the ring and sparring somebody? I mean, you've kind of touched on it. So, you know, for you, I can obviously tell that for you, it's not about going all out.
It's learning.
It's like you're going to use sparring as honing your skills.
100%.
So how does that differ, say, from when you're fighting? If that,
okay.
Am I making sense?
Yeah, definitely. They're two different experiences in the sense where, you know, when you're sparring, you got your head guard on, you got the 16, 14 ounces on, you know, even when you're sparring, there's somewhat of a level of, you know, respect. You might hold back in the sense where, let's say, even when you're in a clench or something in a spar, you might wait for your coaches to say break, because, you know, there's a level of, you know, etiquette when it comes to sparring. I feel like in a fight, it's like, you know, it's a fight. You're trying to knock this guy's head off. There's not that level of respect. Someone's in a clench, you're like, nah, man, I'm trying to kill this person. With sparring, it's more like, no, this is my work. This is someone I'm trying to work with. I'm trying to utilize the skills on the person I'm actually going to end
So
up
it's like
fighting.
a different mindset, isn't it?
Different mindset. Sparring
it's learning.
Like,
sparring is learning, and when you're in a fight, it's like you're going all out.
It's in the name. Otherwise, they'd call sparring fighting, bro. Like, oh, you're fighting this Thursday at the gym. You know what I mean? The reason they call it sparring is because no one talks about. Is there ever a time you hit a bag or hit the pads and it's like, oh, I hit the pads really well, guys. Guys, look at this footage of me hitting the bag. No, it's a part of the training. You hit the bag every day, every week. It's the same with sparring. Like, sparring isn't a bragging right people have later on. I've noticed, especially like as people get more advanced, they understand that sparring is a part of training to the point where it's not something they brag about. They're like, oh, it's boxing, things happen. It's just sparring, bro. Was it the real fight? No. Then why are you bragging about it? So you're talking about the 5 spars, you outclass this person, but you haven't won your last fight. So what are you talking about? Like, what's there to brag about right now? So I feel like as you get more experience, you realize, you know, that edge you felt beforehand where you felt like you needed to hurt the person to prove a point goes out the window. It's like, nah, I want to work on this today. You know what I mean? I've been working this with Nico. I'm trying to apply this. If I land it 3-4 times, I know I can land it in my fight. You know, it's almost like that. But also there is a level of intensity. You know what I mean? But it's training at the end of the day. That's how I perceive it.
Right. Okay. So, but what does it feel like getting punched in the face? How do you deal with that?
I feel like through experience, you learn to deal with it better. I remember at the start, that was something I used to avoid. I used to like pull back my punches. I used to be so hesitant in the beginning. But then it's like the same when I got into calisthenics. You know what you're getting yourself into. You know what the risks come with it. Why am I boxing and expecting not to get hit in the face, bro? That's a part of the sport.
How do you prepare yourself? I know you've mentioned like being nervous and what have you. How do you embrace those nerves? And this goes for sparring and fighting. How do you embrace those nerves and just keep yourself focused? Do you like, I don't know, just ignore them? What do you do?
I embrace it, bro. I embrace it. Obviously, I believe words are powerful. I believe thoughts are powerful as well. So if I'm going to think anything, just think the good things, bro. Like, you know what I mean? What's the point in being nervous, panic? Whatever happens, I firmly believe whatever happens is meant to happen. Do you understand? If it was meant to happen that way, for me, I don't see it as losses. I always see it as learning. If you was meant to lose or if you're meant to win, that was meant to happen. But then you're also meant to take out what you could have done better for those wins and losses.
So how do you deal with losing? You mentioned like
Oh yeah, so
losing.
I've lost before, man, and don't get it twisted, bro. It sucks to lose, man. You know, it's not a good feeling. No one likes to lose. No one likes to be the loser. No one likes to get picked last. All of these things, but then you gotta realize, like, sometimes you gotta cut yourself some slack. You know, you gotta be like, yo, what did I do well in that fight, though? The life of a boxer is a very, like, you know, taxing one in the sense you're training every day, you're running, you're coming to sessions, and you might only have one fight within that entire period of training, right? But no one asks you about, yo, how well you did in sparring. No one asks you about, you know, how much you've improved in training and your runs and your 5Ks. They care about results. So that's why I don't really fix on winning and losing, you know, because there's been fights I've lost where I left, and guess what? I left the venue happy, bro. You know why? Because I know I performed. I value performance. Do you understand? Knowing that I performed much better than I did last time, and I implemented the things I've learned since then. And not only that, sometimes it's based on the competition put in front of you. You know, is it a more experienced person? Did you, you know, I've always said to people, who's the more improved boxer? The person who's 10-0, right? But he's been fighting novice boxers and he might have not performed extremely well, or the person who's had 21 wins but 20 losses, right? The one with 41 fights, clearly the most experienced one, had more, been in there with more experienced people, and they might have lost on splits. They might have performed to the best ability. They might have gone to war with a 3-time national champion, and lost on a 3-2 split decision where people might have said to them, you know, I thought you had that one. But then are we going to look at records, or are we going to look at performance in this scenario? Who's the better person?
Yeah, and from a personal level, I think from a personal level, it is about performance. But people, and this is in professional sport, isn't it? People will be like, how many championships, how many fights won, but how many lost.
That's why you can't care in the sport about other people think, because that's what's gotten me through my losses, bro.
Yeah, it's just got to be about you. You just got to have that self-assurance.
Yeah. You know what you're capable of. Like, if you've been training hard, you have the right mindset. You know what you're fully capable of. You know that one loss or that one slip up isn't a representation of you, isn't enough for you to give up. And on top of that, not caring about what other people think as well, bro. Because at the end of the day, amateurs for experience. I like to review and think what I could have done better. Like, literally,
where do you get that from, do you think? Is that something you've developed, or is it something you've always had? Have you always been like that?
Like I said, I wasn't the most confident person. I didn't have the most self-esteem at one point. Like, me having this conversation, I would be like, I'm two different people. And that's come through putting myself through adverse situations, knowing there's a potential of losing, failing, but embracing it, but knowing I've become a stronger version incrementally over time. I've accumulated to the person I am now because I've thought this way, because I've focused on things to be grateful for. Because I always talk about being present, mindful, and grateful. You got to focus on the now. You got to focus on what you can do now. You know, regardless if you've lost, you've made a mistake, you've won, you've done a great thing. What's happening now, though?
So would you say,
be grateful about that
situation? So would you say that before you were the totally opposite?
I weren't really grateful as much.
So you weren't as grateful. You would look at the, you know, you would look at the, you know, you would look at the negative side of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And it wasn't a good thing.
And then you've had like a mind shift.
100%. Like, when I thought like that, it like kind of predicted in the way I presented myself, my confidence, my self-esteem. I wouldn't be trying to take as many opportunities. If you used to tell me back then, yo, you're going to be competing, you would have had 6 fights in 2 years' time, I would have been like, are you flipping crazy? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. So what did that for you? So if there's somebody out there who's struggling, you know, who's got this destructive mindset, and it is destructive. There's one thing being critical and thinking about your weaknesses and learning and developing. That's one thing, and that's a good thing. You got to be self-critical. But having low self-esteem, feeling like you're not worthy, or having that imposter syndrome and all of that, those negative emotions and thoughts is something entirely different.
Yes.
And to me, it sounds like that you've gone through that. So I've actually forgotten what I was going to say, but I think what I'm trying to get at is what made you, if ever, because sometimes there is, and it's a journey, isn't it? It's not like a switch, like a light switch where you hit it. It's like a gradual thing.
There's ups and downs in it, bro.
Do you know what I mean? And so what did it for you? If you could, you know, if you could sort of hone in on what was it? Was it COVID? Self-reflection? So was it something you watched? Something Arian said maybe?
Yeah. To be fair, it's a mixture of those things. For me, like you mentioned before, like if you was to tell the viewers something who's going through this, I would say, you know, all a strong person is someone who is just tired of being weak. Do you understand? Everyone was flipping weak at one point. No one was growing with muscles.
Do you know what? That's actually true.
Like, they were just tired of it. They didn't want to be that
I've
no
never
more.
thought of it like that.
Like, they were
That's
just
so
tired.
true.
They just don't want to be weak no more, bro. And my brother, he's always been someone I can resort to and turn to with these sort of topics, because I think it's really important to know who to express these feelings towards.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people can some people can capitalize it and make you go on a worse path. Some people, like, for instance, my brother.
Well, some people are just not interested. They can't even relate to it.
They might even just like be like, yeah, what you're doing's all right. But for Arian, it was almost like, no.
But that's the guy or the girl on autopilot. I would argue. I would say.
Yeah.
Because they're not in touch with their.
You need to know who cares, and you gotta understand who you're surrounding yourself with. Are they like-minded people? Are they on a similar path and journey to you? They don't necessarily have to want to be a boxer, but they could be wanting to be the next entrepreneur, the next innovator, or the next anything. Just that level of motivation, discipline, like-mindedness.
Yeah.
Someone like that knows where you're coming from, because people like that have probably gone through adversity themselves, failed multiple times.
Here's you talked about weakness and strength. So was there a point where you realised that I'm being weak here, I need to change?
You know, for me, when I realised I needed to make a mindset shift, is when people saw the potential in me more than I saw myself, right? And they would let me know about it, like, Gautam, like, why'd you talk like that? You do realise you're full of potential. You do realize you're this. And for them to tell
who was saying this?
People who cared for me, like my brother, my close cousin, Jassy, one time, he was on the phone talking to me about this. Like, I don't think you realize how much potential you have. Hearing these things from other people and not believing in myself, I was thinking, what are these lot seeing that I'm not seeing? Do you know? And then I realized slowly, I started.
Again, isn't it? This is coming back to having positive people around you.
100%.
Because if you were around toxic,
if it was the wrong person, they might have seen it, that this Gautam's got potential, but you know what? I don't want him to see it, But
also, it's having that awareness, isn't it?
Yeah, at that time, it was awareness I lacked. Or it wasn't what I lacked, it was more like I just didn't believe it, because my actions at that time weren't showing me I'm worthy enough to believe that. But for me, having people who cared for me, like my brother, he's the one who even, like, if you look at my tattoo, it says WWC. Yeah. That's literally stands for winner, warrior, champion.
Wow.
He's the one who literally grilled that into me. He said, Gautam, you're a winner, you're a warrior, you're a champion. I literally remember that day. I was literally like I was feeling the complete opposite of these things, and I was writing it in my journal, winner, warrior. I must have wrote like 10 lines.
So how often do you write in your journal?
I feel like journaling is very important. Like, it's a habit I've gone on and off with since I have done it, but more recently, especially, it's something I do to just declutter my mind. Like I said, outside of boxing as well. Like I said, it's important to be excellent in every aspect of your life and to be mentally strong, especially in a sport where you get hit in the head. Do you know what I mean, bro? It's important to be switched on, and have skills outside of boxing and to be able to be mentally strong, be able to be mindful.
What got you writing?
Present.
What got you writing?
For me, that version of myself I didn't like, low self-esteem. A lot of that came for just, me, I think a lot as it is, but not in a detrimental way. I overthink for, in the sake of progression. Back then when I overthought, though, there wasn't meaningful thoughts. They weren't beneficial thoughts. And that.
So you just thought, let's get this out there and let's see what these.
Let me declutter my mind. That was it. Yeah. All it was before I used to even practice, even just sitting down in silence, meditating, you could say, even just going on long walks, just having deep thinking, embracing thoughts. The same way we're talking about how do you deal with thoughts, embracing them, like what's wrong with embracing it. Before I learned about any of these habits, I would just have a bunch of thoughts in my head that would clutter my mind, which would result into me overthinking, being nervous, sometimes even being paranoid, and me not understanding.
So you've had like
anxiety.
a massive transformation.
100%. And
it's like you were saying earlier yourself that you were like 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
That's a different Gautam.
Different version. In that space, 2 years.
And that you've managed to like transform yourself from like, I don't know, I can imagine someone that was unapproachable. You didn't want to talk to anyone.
Not really, man.
You thought, you thought you weren't worthy.
Yeah.
All of that kind of negative, sort of destructive. It's destructive.
It is
I
destructive.
mean, you could end up with depression and all sorts of psychological and mental issues with that kind of level of thinking. So you've gone from that to this confident, talkable,
100%.
Articulate
100%.
all of the good stuff. And it's just like,
and even along that journey though, it's not just being black and white. It's not like one day you're just gonna, say, what, I want to make change, and then not go through the struggle that comes with that change. You might even go through such a positive change, other people notice it, yourself notice it, and you might even go through a rabbit hole where, you feel like you're on top of the world, and then you might feel like you're down again. But because
it's a constant battle.
It's a roller coaster, but you gotta know that's life. The same when you go into a boxing ring, there's a chance you're gonna get punched.
You're so mature for your age. How old did you say you were?
I'm 23, bro.
Do you know what I mean? That's mature talk for a 23-year-old.
I appreciate you a lot, bro, for that. But like I said, like, like no one said life was gonna be easy. The same way no one goes into
pat yourself.
Thank you.
Good lad, man. That's just amazing. Before I forget, I just want to say, so if there's one piece of advice you can give someone that's going through this low self-esteem and all of this negative stuff, what's one piece of advice you can give them to make that transition? I mean, we've already touched on the fact that we're going to be real. You know what I mean? It's not like a switch. Yeah. It's a journey.
I actually have a phrase I use.
But what one piece of advice would you give that person?
It's actually it's like an analogy I use. So it's like I call it the 5 P's in it. Do you know what I mean?
The 5 P's.
Persevere, persist, progress, perform, and prosper, bro. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, so I get that, and that's sounds fantastic. But if there's one piece of advice I just want you to share, what would that be?
I know you know what that one thing is. I know there's that one thing that wakes you up every single morning. As stupid as other people might find it, don't listen to the other people. Find out what that one thing is. And if there's a route that can make you a better person as a result of it, we always mention, money's not everything. But if you do the right things, don't get twisted, money will come if you do follow the right path. But there will be no path to pave if you don't know what that one thing is.
Yeah, so you gotta so your one piece of advice, someone feeling someone's having that negative mindset, low self-esteem and all of that bad stuff, find what it is that you're good at, find what wakes you up in the morning, and then use that as your catalyst to and it's like I said before, it's not like a switch, it's a journey, and you just have to take a step. And I think that's your first step that you would take.
Because no matter how down you're feeling now, that thing that wakes you up is probably going to be the thing that makes you feel less down regardless, isn't it? You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. No, that's so true. And I totally agree with what you're saying. And I think that's what it is. It's about drive, isn't it? It's like essentially what you're talking about is what drives you. Find what drives you and what you're good at. Kind of, it's all like kind of intermingled, intertwined, and just finding that happy place that everybody has, and then just using that as the catalyst, as the catapult to take you to this, like what you've done in your journey, where you've had, that low self-esteem, and you've gone from that to where you are today, which is so motivational and inspirational. And I'm sure people are going to find it and are finding it, in exactly the way I see it.
Thank you, bro.
So in terms of, I think it's a good segue this to another area I want to explore, and that is like challenges. And again, you've touched a lot on it, and I can sort of see how this personal challenge of yours, maybe you didn't even realize it was a challenge at the time while you were going through it, but it clearly, I think the way I see it, I can see it as a challenge at the time, feeling low, and then dealing with it. You battled with it, and you've come out the right side of it. Do you think that kind of grit, that level of resilience, determination, because all of this, you need, resilience, determination, self-awareness to get you from that mindset to this mindset. How do you think that's helped you to deal with, say, like losing your boxing fight?
Whatever don't kill you makes you stronger, innit? And going through something like, having low self-esteem and these things which require so much resilience and a change in perspective, it also allows you to apply that change in perspective to other aspects of your life, like a loss. Because regardless of a boxing match, you're going to experience a loss at some point in your life. Loss of money, loss of a loved one,
Just tell us about those 5Ps, because I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, persevere, persist, progress, perform, and
Persevere,
prosper. Persist,
progress,
perform, prosper.
prosper.
That could be like applied to like even the game of
Where did you get
boxing.
that from? Is it?
It was just that
I'm gonna
idea.
actually Google it, find out find out what it's about, because I think it's
So it's just something I like. So one of my things I follow, like something I just came up on the spot. Like I said,
you came
not on the spot just now, but like at one point in time when I was talking to someone, and it must be like a funny game, you know, like we was just doing some analogies or whatever, you know, just doing alliteration, rhyming and that. But then it was something that related to me at the time. In the beginning of any sort of challenge, and whether it's you're preparing for your first boxing match, learning the skill, you're gonna struggle in the beginning. That's the hardest part, you know, the persevering, the persistent, they go hand in hand, right? You're overcoming that adversity, them self-doubts. Yo, is this sport for me? Is this job for me? Is this person for me? But then when you start to progress, you know, you're starting to see the little incremental things that, you know, when you first go to the gym, you see that little bicep gain. You're like, yo, it's that addictive feeling. You want to go back to the gym again, see how far you can max it. That's when you start to be able to perform them skills in a boxing match, them skills that you progressed with your coach. You start to perform it in the spars, in the ring. And then that performance is what leads to that prosperity, which is that success when your hand gets raised, when you get that trophy. So absolutely. That's why I'm always valuing performance over the prosperity, because you know the prosperity, man, that's the end game. That's what comes as a result of the persevering, the persistent, the progressing, the performing. Do you know what I mean? Without one, there is no other. Do you know what I mean, bro? So that's what kind of like.
I think I was going to end it there, but I just want you to share. And I think it's a nice way of ending our conversation. And you have, I mean, you've already probably touched on it again, but just I want you to focus more on boxing. And if there's any, you know, can you share one inspirational? You've given us a beautiful life inspiration, and it's inspired me, and I'm sure it's inspired people watching and listening. Just one boxing related inspiration.
So what's happened to me personally?
No, in terms of amateur boxing.
Okay.
An inspirational experience you can share with us.
Like for me, that's happened to me in the world of boxing.
Yeah.
So it goes to that thing I mentioned before about persevering and never giving up. Literally my first ever spar before I even joined the club, believe it or not, it literally went as destructive experience, first time sparring experience can go. You know, I didn't understand the idea of weight categories at the time. I didn't understand that, you know, experience. But I just thought, like, prior to that, I'd only touched sparred. I'd never actually been in a hard spar, right? And I must.
This was your first sparring
session ever. This was like
so I bet you're nervous as hell.
It's not even that I'm nervous as hell, I just didn't know what to expect. I've never actually been in a hard spar. The only things I've experienced prior to that is just, you know, touching my friend and these things, you know, maybe hitting a bag, right? But this is when I was preparing for my first white collar fight, so it felt like something I needed at the time, right? You always,
and that's the other thing, isn't it? And this is something we haven't touched on. I mean, you did, I think, indirectly, but you've actually, your first fight was white collar, and then you've gone from white collar to amateur.
100%. It was
which is
literally the week after I won my first white collar fight. My friend Jassy, the person who put me on to the white collar fight, like, yo, come join my gym. And from there,
and then
it went from something. It went from something I wanted to just tick off my bucket list, like something I did once, to it just embedded itself in my life. Because it's one of those things I've heard someone say, once you started it, like there's no going back.
It's addictive. It's addictive. So that one inspirational experience. So you're sparring.
And so
you've gone in, you've got absolute, you know, you're none the wiser of, you know, about
I didn't know what to expect. I didn't even know the importance of even someone being 2 kg heavier than you, let alone like 15 kg heavier than me.
So how did you deal with it? How did you get through this?
What ended up happening was, imagine now, you know, people I even see to this day I train with now, but because I've made so much progress, it's like this incident isn't even a thing on their mind anymore, because this is how far I've come since then. This was one of those make or break situations, something that can literally, you've mentioned it before, something that can make someone want to quit the sport. For me, I'm a prideful guy. I know my capability, and I knew that was just a matter of just bad matchmaking or bad decision making from me, and me being completely unaware of what the sport entailed, right? From that incident, that could have been like the ride back home from then was such as which was the one where I was doubting myself. I'm fighting in 8 weeks. Is this sport for me? Did I make a fool about myself? All these people saw it. It was even on my camera footage. Like I've experienced like the worst case scenario you could ever imagine. I experienced that early on, like the first thing. You know what I mean? So I know what the worst case scenario can happen. I experienced that the first time, but did I let it break me? No, you know, I did the complete opposite. Like traditionally, most people would have given up at that point, felt humiliated.
So you've used that as fuel.
It fueled me to like, you know, like everyone who saw me there at that point. I'm not that just person who gives up or, you know, takes a loss sourly or, you know, this is not what I'm going to be remembered for. I'm more than this. You know, this is not me. And I proceeded.
So again, isn't it? It's again, I think you're and I think this is like your theme of your life: grit and determination.
Grit and determination.
You just kind of like you've persevered. Not exactly. You persevered. You did not let it get to you
and
knock your confidence.
100%.
You were like, I've had this bad experience, and I'm going to change this bad experience to going to make the next one a good one.
Bro, listen, this is something people would take to their grave and not even admit. I'm saying this in front of a camera. This is something I tell a lot of people. Like, yes, I have been absolutely shattered one time. What's boxing like? Has this ever happened to you? Yes. That happened like the first time, bro. But guess what? It's something I'm so grateful it happened because I told myself I'm never going to let that happen again. And it's something that it made me.
So just to like, I know what you're saying. I understand.
I got rocks.
Yeah. So just for people listening and watching, what is it that happened that you know that was so bad?
I must have sparred someone who was like 12 kg heavier than me at least, right? But me going into that, I used to think, oh, I didn't realize weight categories was a thing. I thought, yo, if you can fight, you can fight. Isn't that what it is? You know, regardless of the weight category, like.
But again, this also demonstrates that how dangerous white collar boxing is.
100%.
And it's, you know, if you want to box, you want to be boxing amateur, not white collar.
100%.
And I think you've had, you know, it's a close shave. You know, you've had it.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm glad it was one of my first experiences because that first experience, like I said, it was make or break. And because I didn't let it break me, it made me aware from early the danger of the sport, the importance.
And I think you would have also learned the difference between white collar and amateur at that point.
Yeah, 100%. Well. Like I said, I mentioned to you before.
That's interesting. I get so many. It's just.
I'm glad I realized that sooner than later because even like at these white collar events, no disrespect to anyone who does these sort of things because anyone who hops in the ring is a commendable thing regardless. But even just,
but it is dangerous. It is dangerous. That's my 100%.
Like to this day, when I have gone to a white collar event versus an amateur event, I've seen the difference in the way the crowd approaches the fight. I feel like in a white collar fight, they're just trying to see a winner, a loser, someone get a hit, someone get hurt. Amateur, there's that level of etiquette where people understand like this is a part of the sport. Most people in the crowd are competitors, ex-competitors, coaches.
There's that camaraderie, and level of respect.
There's a level of respect, and
I admire you for stepping in the ring and doing your thing. And likewise, you know, there's that mutual level of respect
100%.
and respect.
Fortunately for me, that only happened in sparring, and it was my first spar as well. Well, my first hard spar. Prior to that, I just used to think touching someone was sparring in it, but until I realized, oh, this is what hard sparring is. When someone says let's spar, this is what they mean, right? There's an intensity there.
Wow.
I learned that, but then I learned a lot of things during that 8 weeks prior to my first fight. I learned so much, experienced so much adversity, overcame it, and just that mentality alone has strengthened my mind to the point where I told myself, bro, I'm not a quitter, I don't give up. And that allowed me to win my first fight, get onto the amateur scene. And unlike most people,
that's actually really, really interesting.
Unlike a lot of people who feel like I've noticed they take a while before they get their first fight. For me, because I was just putting myself out there constantly, even before.
Goes back to what we were saying. Yeah. Just right at the start, a guy that is not shy. You know, you're not shy. Not shy in terms of throwing yourself in. You know, you're not shy of throwing yourself into the deep end. And I think this really sort of clarifies that
100%
and demonstrates that.
And obviously, I'm only praying that I only get stronger, you know, my ability to want to push myself further, but, you know, also progress as a result. Yeah. You know what I mean? I like to take calculated risks. I know there's risks that are silly and there's calculated risks, bro. And I feel like the audience needs to know the difference. I don't want to like misguide them and tell them, yeah, you know that thing someone pressures you to do or that thing that you feel like you're a coward if you don't do, you have to do. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if it makes sense and the only thing that's holding you back is just your nerves, guess what? Nerves is normal. Your nerves shouldn't be the thing that holds you back.
No, I'm glad you're making that clarification.
If it's a thing that, you know, on paper, it just doesn't make sense, that's a different thing. There's risks, silly risk, and calculated risk. be sure to take the calculated ones, the things that make
Yeah.
sense to you. And the only thing that holds you back is your nerves, because guess what? Everyone feels nervous. And if anything,
Yeah.
you perform better when you're nervous, inside and outside the ring. Like before this interview, I was a bit nervous. Do you know what I mean? I imagine you were a bit nervous, and now we're flowing like, you know what I mean? Smooth
Yeah.
like butter, bro.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
calculate your risks, man.
No, you know what? I think that's just a nice way to end it.
100%, bro.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I've taken so much away from our convo. You know, your transition from this guy, from this low self-esteem person to having the self-esteem and the confidence you have. I think that's been motivational
Thank you,
and
bro.
inspiring to me, and I'm sure it has been to the viewers and the listeners.
Hopefully, man.
And I'm sure you've really enjoyed the conversation as much as I have. So please leave a comment, share, and subscribe. Next week we'll have not next week. The next episode, I plan to have Sam George. Sam George has got an incredible journey to share, a comeback journey. So I'm really looking forward to speaking to Sam, and I can't wait. And I'm sure you guys are going to be, you're going to be the same. Until then, keep your hands up, keep your shape, stay balanced, and be ready for whatever life throws your way. Thank you for joining us, and goodbye.